Baylor suddenly favorites in week 1.
3-point swing? That's crazy.
What?
Huh?
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Woo! Welcome to a big time Locked On Podcast Network crossover. Auburn with Zac Blackerby.
Yes.
Baylor with Cam Stuart. Just a couple of perfect Locked On shows.
You think?
Crossing it over.
You think?
Don't ask me. The powers that be, the experts that look at these things, say these are two perfect shows. For
40 out of 40, they say.
Like, I'm not making this up. That's what
the
they
email
say.
said.
That's what they say. 40 out of 40. You literally couldn't get two higher scoring college football podcasts than these two coming together. This is a perfect 80 show right here. We're going to talk all about this week 1 matchup, Baylor and Auburn. For Baylor fans, first one of the opponents preview series that we'll have going on throughout most of the month of August as well. What's worrying Auburn ahead of this week 1, and why has the line shifted so much for a week 1 game? And both of us have agreed in the past that this is probably the biggest game of the season for both teams, maybe the most integral. So who has more to lose in this game?
You've come around on that. I can't wait to talk about that later in the show.
All that and more coming up on this Locked On crossover. Zac Blackerby of Locked On Auburn, the Zac Blackerby of the Locked On Auburn. You put out a tweet a week or two ago at this point that I've kept my eye on. I've kept my eye on the replies, which is never a good thing in our profession. But you put out this tweet about what is the most concerning thing for Auburn going into the season, specifically into week 1. And a lot of Auburn fans had the comment something along the lines of, like, are we overestimating Baylor? Like, are you getting that vibe?
I was earlier in the offseason, and then I think maybe after the first or second time you came on, I think a lot of people stopped and are like, no, Baylor's a good football team. And then you started to see Sawyer Robertson pop up on more and more of these like top 10 quarterback lists. And like, I don't think it was from a point of arrogance or anything like that. I think it's just we don't watch Big 12 football a ton when the SEC is a superior product.
Well, yeah.
And so that's just where I think a lot of people were. But seriously, though, I think the more you look at Baylor, the more the average Auburn fan has been like, oh, this isn't a gimme by any stretch of the imagination. And then, as we sit down to record this earlier in the week, there's been this massive shift, according to our friends at FanDuel. Auburn's been a favorite. I think it opened at 1.5 in Auburn's direction, went to 2.5. And then, Cam, I predicted that this game would open as Auburn as a 3.5-point favorite, but no, it has shifted the other way. Baylor now a 1.5-point favorite, according to our friends at FanDuel. Can't stress that enough. FanDuel. But it's been interesting. And so to answer your question about the worry, I've seen some of that. I think a lot of it is the worry that something is going to happen that is self-imposed, because that's been the thing holding Auburn back the last 2 years for sure, has been just finding dumb ways to lose football games. And then you bring in Jackson Arnold, who we all agree on his upside. The sky is the limit, but known to turn the ball over, especially early last season. He got better as the season went on. Same with Auburn. Turned the ball over a ton the first half season. Got better as the year went on. But I think that would be the biggest worry for a lot of Auburn fans.
Yeah, and we talked about this earlier. This came up, right? Like we both agree on the upside of Jackson Arnold and that kind of combination of Jackson Arnold, this arsenal of receivers, this coach / play caller. Like that should in theory work out, right? It should, in theory, knock on wood. Like that's college football, right? But the biggest part of this game for me is that it's week 1. Like there's no preseason games. There's no real scrimmages. Like your baptism by fire here in all of college football is obviously not limited to this matchup. I have to imagine that's where a lot of the angst comes from the Auburn fan base of like, we believe in this thing. We believe in this thing getting better than it has been the last few years, but it's week 1. It's on the road. I'm not going to sit here and tell you Baylor's the best atmosphere in the country, but it's a true road game. Week 1 with a new quarterback and a lot of new.
And everything about it's going to be weird already, right? Friday night game as well. I mean, a handful of these starters weren't on the team 6 months ago. And some of that just is the new era of college football that we're in. But Baylor's a team, correct me if I'm wrong, but like this team knows each other. Like, I don't think y'all did a crazy amount in the portal. Y'all added a few pieces, but bringing a lot of guys back. Which I think is one of the biggest arguments for Baylor in this game. So, yeah, I 100% agree. It being in Waco is a factor. There's no question about it. But there's still parts of this, Cam, where I have to almost second guess myself because, and we've talked about this, you and I have, I think the last show that we did on this, once again, 240 out of 40 shows conversing.
Damn.
Crossover fashion.
Couldn't get any better than that.
But I still think Auburn has the edge in the trenches. I think Auburn's O-line versus Baylor's D-line, I give the edge to Auburn. Yep. And I think Auburn's D-line versus Baylor's O-line, I give the edge to Auburn. You could talk about Clay Robertson. You can talk about, Baylor's running backs who I think are very good. Mm-hmm. I know you guys got a receiver or two that you're very high on. And yeah, I think the stats back it up. I'm not pushing against that.
Josh Cameron. Yeah.
But so many of these close games, it comes down to who wins in the trenches. And that's where I'm looking and saying, like, I still think Auburn wins this football game.
That is an interesting way of looking at it. Obviously not a controversial way of looking at it, but I think while you were saying that, what I was thinking is I would just, with all that being said, I would kill to have a Baylor defense that could just create some turnovers. And they really haven't been able to do that the last 2 seasons. And that's, as we talked about, probably the weakest part of their team, or the most question marks, is that defensive backfield. But like, if you had a ball hawk or two back there against Jackson Arnold week 1, like that can cure a lot, right? Like that can cure a lot of ills if you're able to do that. It's kind of like, in hockey or soccer, like if you have a good goalie, it's not automatic, but it can cure a lot of what else goes wrong.
Yeah, it covers up a lot of things, like good quarterback play or good offensive scheme.
Yeah.
If you've got an elite, defensive back in the middle of the field every play, like you got a shot for sure.
You do.
And that's another matchup that we brought up last time we did this show, where like, okay, you're not too fired up about Baylor's DBs. And then they trot out Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton and Horatio Fields.
Yep.
And it's like, I don't care who's throwing them the ball, like in 50-50 situations, I do think Auburn has the edge there.
What are the odds we get you out on a boat before the game, do a little sailgating? Waco.
What?
You never heard of sailgating?
Y'all sailgate in Baylor?
Yeah. Zach, if I may. All right. It is one of 3 riverfront stadiums in college football. Okay.
Pardon my ignorance here. So sorry.
The Brazos River. And if you say it with enough of a John Morris, like little Central Texas twang, you can call McLean the palace on the Brazos and almost make it rhyme.
Give me an example of that. Take a stab at it.
Come on. The palace on the Brazos.
All right.
You see that? It almost rhymes. So
okay.
It's close enough. I'd love to see you out there on the boat and everything.
My answer next, right here on this crossover edition of Locked On Auburn and Locked On Baylor.
Zach, we're in different corners of the country. Well, actually not kind of right now, but we will be.
Right now, actually.
And what we can agree on, though, is it's hot in the summer. Is that a controversial take?
No, not controversial at all.
So you know what I like to do when it's hot out, Zach? I like to be hydrated. I like to have water in my system. I do. I like to keep hydrated. There's a lot going on in the studio right now. I'm moving across the country this week.
Yeah,
and so I need to stay hydrated with drip drop the entire
baby.
time.
Let's go.
And when I'm on top of my hydration, I don't know about you, I notice everything about me works better. My energy, my mood, my focus, my skin, my 40 grade on the podcast. Getting enough fluids, it ain't always easy, though. That's why I love Drip Drop. Okay. It's a doctor developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. Uses the perfect balance of sodium, electrolytes, and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. If you're moving, if you're doing a podcast, if you're crawling behind a podcast, you have to be hydrated to do it. Right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDON, COLLEGE, for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat starts to hit even harder.
If you want to be great, you got to hydrate. Let's go.
I like that.
Let's go. No, my answer to your question is no. No, I'm not making it out to Waco. My guy, Daryl Dapprich, is planning on going. My co-host several times a week. Yeah. So maybe you can get him out there. That'd be fun.
I'd love to give Daryl some recs.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure he'd be all about it. He'd be all about it.
But what's crazier?
Can I ask a question? Do you mind?
Sure. Yeah.
Do you mind?
Yeah. Crossover.
Do you mind?
No, I don't.
I'll make sure. Because I'd do anything for you. What's the biggest worry for Baylor going into this?
That is a good question, man. That's how you get a perfect.
I think it's only fair. You asked me.
Yeah.
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
And also, did you think about cleaning up behind you at all?
No, there's just too much going on this week, man. There's too much going on this week.
Got it.
I wanted to put the worst example possible in front of one of the great shows on this network, Zac Blackerby's Locked On Auburn.
Yeah, we're not 80 out of 80 this week. That's for sure.
My biggest worry, not yet. We could make up, maybe get to 75, 78.
Yeah,
my biggest worry for Baylor is honestly is kind of what we touched on in that segment, which is the defensive backfield. Like, it was a huge question mark going into this season anyway. And then you take out Devin Turner, who was an all Big Ten honorable mention safety out of Northwestern. They picked up out of the portal, guy who could pick off a pass, which not all safeties could do.
Well, you know what they called it when he picked off a pass? It was a turner over.
We're climbing back towards 80 right now.
I think we're back at 80 out of 80.
Tell you what, but he's out with a torn ACL, so no turnovers this year. Like, turner overing the page to next season. So like that's a big concern for me. And the other one though, Zach, talking about guys who aren't going to be there, the NCAA has still not ruled on Ashton Hawkins, Baylor's second leading receiver from last year. He had no problem getting the waiver, kind of that JUCO waiver, Diego Pavia stuff. And then after spring football, they took his eligibility away. And
Why?
They said no.
What's the story there?
We don't really have an answer yet. We don't have an answer. So he played a couple of years at JUCO, one of which being the COVID year. And so he isn't exactly like Pavia, but is like Jet Elad, who is defensive back from Rutgers. Of course, I don't even know why I'm insulting our audience. Everyone knows who Jet Elad is. He had the same timeline as Ashton Hawkins and got his eligibility back in the same spring. Dave Aranda was supposed to hear by the 4th of July whether they were going to get him back, and they still haven't heard. They went out and got someone out of the portal, a receiver from Purdue, who's going to end up on the team. I don't know how that works with the whole portal window in the summer, but that's your second leading receiver down. And we're going to talk about chemistry, especially on Auburn's side. I know it's a new quarterback, but it can go both ways. And now you're going to rotate in 2 new receivers who are going to get like real starter reps with Ashton Hawkins out. So to me, that's a big worry. Apparently Vegas is not like Ashton Hawkins because they have flipped this thing big time. Even though he's probably not going to be out there.
What's been the discussion in Baylor post Big 12 media days?
I mean, that's the big one is Ashton Hawkins. We also found out at media days that Devin Turner was no longer, like, officially was not going to be a part of this team this year. But I think honestly, like, from a fan standpoint, after media days, it's like, first off, Dave Aranda not being PC, which
that's what I'm asking about. I mean, that seems to be the story of Big 12 media days from like the SEC side peeking in. Was just the viral clip of Dave Aranda. Who, Cam, I'm going to be honest, I thought it was AI. When I saw
I did too.
This isn't real. This is really good AI. And no, it was a legit thing.
It's like that Twitter account that's like, images that AI can never recreate. Like any Dave Aranda press conference answer is something that AI just can't recreate. Like you can't. I honestly, I'm still trying to understand what he was going for. I think I do. I think I kind of do get it. It's about like relationships with recruits, but yeah, it was about
what a wild way to paint that picture, though.
Very weird and very tough to like. I speak fluent Aranda. It's been a couple years. I still don't.
Do you think there was a moment he got like a few sentences in and he's like, I don't know if I should have started this hike, but I got to finish it now?
I think yes. I was actually talking with Drake about that earlier this week. Like
Drake told Locked On Big 12.
Exactly. Not a perfect 40, but pretty good show. Pretty good. Does well.
He got a 38. Pretty good.
And that's still pretty good. I'll give it to him.
Not 40, but pretty good.
And we were talking about that, and I'm like, most people can stop at the moment that Dave wants to stop and kind of play it off and like make it a joke or be like, you know what? Probably I'm not going to go that far or something like that. And the crowd laughs and we're back into an answer. But Dave can't do that. Like Dave is all in on this thing. And that's what you get. And then at the end, he just gives that look where he closes his mouth. And he's looking around like, all right, you got your serious answer for a serious question. What's the next serious question with a serious answer?
Let's just all collectively move on together, please. Thanks.
That's not going to become anything, right? Gosh, what a matchup. What a matchup with these two coaches, man.
Yeah.
Hugh Freeze, Dave Aranda, pretty much the same
guy. Do you
guy.
think my take about the trenches favoring Auburn is fair?
I do. I do, and I know some Baylor fans will push back on this a little bit because they like this offensive line unit, and I do too.
Yeah, push back. Like I want you to push back on it. Like what's the argument against it?
Well, the argument against it is they were a pretty good run blocking team last year. They left a little bit to be desired in the pass pro, and they bring probably 4 of the 5 guys back. Just depending, they had some guys rotate in the middle of the season. So, starter, backup, there's going to be guys rotating in. You keep most of that together. And it's really like the first, I use this with the quarterback all the time. So I'll use it again with offensive line, because I think it's important. It is your first full off season with Jake Spavital as the OC, with Mason Miller as the offensive line coach, where that was a position coach. They hired one in December of last year, and he left when an Alabama job opened in January. So you had to kind of, get some guy in here in the end of January, and you still got spring football. But like, we know that's different when you know who your starters are, who's coming back, you get that time with them. And I do think that does help Baylor. And Big 12 fans aren't going to like hearing this, but one of the major difference that we have talked about, actually, I think last time we talked, in the SEC and the Big 12, a lot of that is in the trenches. And a lot of it is with game-wrecking edge rushers and that defensive line. That's where the athletes get a lot better. It's not even necessarily at corner or receiver or quarterback, but it's definitely there in the trenches. So, and I just don't have a ton of belief in this Baylor defensive line and this Baylor pass rush and getting any kind of pressure on the quarterback. I still have a ton of questions about that.
Yeah. I have one other question, and then you can ask me all the questions you want.
Please.
That's next. Right here on Locked On Auburn. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn and Locked On Baylor your first listen every single day. Crossover edition of the show. When you look at what Baylor was able to do down the stretch last year, they finished red hot until they played LSU in the bowl game. But is there any concern from the Baylor side of it that all the teams you guys beat weren't good? And then you played a good LSU team and it didn't go super great. I don't think it went as bad as some people are making it out to be against LSU. Like, some people are acting like y'all got whooped by LSU, and I'm like, was it that lopsided? I checked a few days ago, and the box score, it wasn't that bad. But
they were in the game the whole time. You're never comfortable. You never thought they were going to win, but they were in the game.
Yeah, right. Yep. It wasn't a 42-7 game.
Right.
I think that's the way some people are talking about. Baylor, they ran into an SEC team and they got whooped. I'm like, LSU was a better team that day, but I don't know if we're being quite, fair to what Baylor was able to do in that bowl game. But down the stretch, like all these teams that they played, like weren't good. Is there any is there any discussion on that on the Baylor side of it?
Yes, and I think it took a while in the offseason for us Baylor fans to kind of look at that critically.
Okay.
But yeah, they were like, as fun as it was the back half of the season, the facts are the facts. They were never ranked and they didn't beat a ranked team.
Yeah.
And all the teams they played at that back half had flaws. Like, TCU and Texas Tech, like they weren't horrible. They weren't great. They weren't good enough to be ranked. That was fair. And while they were good and solid, they just had major flaws. TCU did not have a running game, and their defense couldn't stop a nosebleed, especially running the ball. Tech got real exposed in that game they played against Baylor, and they actually forced some turnovers against Tech, which is something they didn't do really all season long. Houston, Oklahoma State, those are not good teams. West Virginia, not a very good team. Like that's just how it is.
They do have Mountaineer Paul locked on West Virginia.
One of the very best hosts that we have on this network.
Incredible. An icon, I think it's fair to say.
I think that's a good word for Mountaineer Paul. Completely iconic.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it definitely took some time for that shine to kind of wear off a little bit of the winning streak for Baylor fans to look at this, and especially, to look at the schedule in the first month.
Yeah.
Where you've got better Auburn team, college football playoff SMU team, college football playoff Arizona State team, all in the first month.
It's a lot.
Like we're gonna learn pretty quickly if they can compete with the big boys in this conference anyway.
Yeah, and I mean you teed it up at the start of it, like who has more to lose in this game. And they're both in similar spots where I think they're both trying to prove something.
Yep.
And the first month of the schedule for Auburn, it's like the first 5 games. Like they go to Waco, they go to Norman to play Oklahoma, and then the following week they go to College Station to play Texas A&M. And it's like if you go 1-2 in those games, like your second half, then they host Georgia. And then after that, you've got 5 games before the Iron Bowl that I think are all winnable. Mm-hmm. But if you got to hold the team together, like you got to find a way, I think, to win. If you can win 2 of those 3 road games and just whatever happens against Georgia happens, like you're fine. If you go 1-2 in those 3 road games, like, or worse, that's a tricky hole that you've got to dig yourself out of. So from the Auburn side of it, this game's crucial.
It's huge. And one of the other big replies I saw in that tweet we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Well, what's the most worrying about this team? A lot of people said overlooking Baylor, but still some were saying winning football games. Like I know you've talked about this on the show, but from an Auburn standpoint, like that can't be emphasized enough. Like win 6 football games, go to a bowl game, have a winning record. Like for Baylor, it's proving yourself, that you're going to be a team at the top of the conference this year, which I think they can be and should be. B, it's the SEC, right? Even if it's Arkansas or Vanderbilt, it's the SEC, right? Like that's big still for the Big 12. But from the Auburn standpoint, I got to imagine the thing to prove is that we can win. We can win with this coach. We can win with this quarterback. And that might be harsh to throw on week 1, but
it's not
the schedule,
Cam.
That's the
it's
schedule.
Not. I mean, the first 2 years he was kind of given a pass by most Auburn fans, not all. I gave him the pass because the situation that he was given was awful. I mean, Brian Harsin, we call it the potato famine. Like he just absolutely ran the program into the ground because he didn't recruit. Then you bring Hugh Freeze in, who maybe put more of an emphasis on recruiting than actually winning football games the first 2 years. But now, like, you step back and you look at the roster, it's like, you should be able to win with this. And there's going to be a major fear and concern if they were to lose to Baylor and if they, don't win football games. It's like, if you can't win with this caliber roster, what are you doing here? And that'd be a rough reality to live in.
And I think the big question within that, from how you've talked about it, both in this show and in the offseason, is like, this game coming down to the final few minutes. Like, I don't think either of us think this is going to be a blowout.
Correct.
They rarely are in these big week 1 games. Sometimes, when Michigan used to schedule Alabama and stuff at the beginning of the season, those were brutal.
Yeah.
But as you talked about earlier, like the last couple of years has been a clinic on finding new ways to lose football games. Like, here you go. Week 1 on the road, new quarterback. It's probably going to come down to the wire. I think both teams are going to be really nervous about that because, if Baylor can't come through, it's like, are we destined for another 8-4, 7-5, mired in Big 12 kind of mediocrity, need to get a new coach? And from an Auburn standpoint, if it comes down to that and it doesn't go your way, it's got to be like, when is it going to happen? when is it actually going to come through? I do
think, and this is, of course, from the Auburn point of view, like I understand the Auburn bias in saying this, but I do think a loss in this game hurts Auburn more than it hurts Baylor, because I do think I think Baylor could lose to Auburn and still go 10-2 or 9-3 and be a contender in the Big 12. Like, I don't think that'd be a crazy thing to say at all. If Auburn loses to Baylor, like, Auburn's not in a spot where they think they're going to win the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
And if that happens and you go 500 in conference play, like, and you lose to Baylor, are we happy with that? Like, is that good enough? That'd be a major conversation in November if that were to happen.
That's a good way to put it. Like, if Baylor loses that game, it's a lot easier for them to say, hey, our goals are still in front of us.
Yes.
Right. Like, and maybe there is some SEC bias in that, but like you're saying, you know what, we lost to a what should be a good, decent SEC team. But we can still win 10 games. We can win the Big 12. We can vie for the college football playoff. It's a long road, but it's still there. Are we going to save it for the week of the game for an actual full-on prediction?
Sure.
Then let me end with this then. What is a good season, since it's an opponent preview? What does a good season look like for Auburn? Success.
8-4 or better, I think. And I don't know if you can get to 8-4 or better without beating Baylor week 1. It's possible. I don't know how likely it is. So I think Auburn needs to have an offensive identity form where it looks like a Hugh Freeze offense, what he was able to do at Ole Miss, what he was able to do with Malik Willis at Liberty, something that looks like what he's been able to do at his previous stops and found success with. And I guess just proof that, these elite guys they've brought in, that you can be elite and you can get to the NFL at Auburn. I mean, Auburn's got a lot of guys on both sides of the football that I expect to be NFL draft picks this year. Auburn has 3 guys who could potentially be first-round draft picks this year. And you've got to figure out a way to use those guys consistently, and you've got to figure out a way to win with them. And you've got to be competitive with, the 2 biggest rivals or 2 of the best programs in college football, unfortunately, with Alabama and Georgia. You've got to be competitive with those. You get them both at home this year. Can you steal one? Auburn fans are looking for hope right now. And it's been a rough half decade of Auburn football.
Yeah. We'll see where the hope comes from. Week 1, August the 29th, 7 p.m. Eastern or Central, one of them. You will catch it on national TV. You can bet on it at FanDuel. Make the game more exciting with FanDuel as we bring that up one more time. Look at that. Baylor 1.5 at this point. Huge movement. Zach, I appreciate you doing this crossover and this perfect 80 crossover.
This has been fun.
I love it. I love it. We're going to preview from the Baylor side all of Baylor's opponents that we can get on a show for this football season, but it all starts with Auburn. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us wherever you find your podcast. Yeah. I want you in the comment section. I want some score predictions from you in the comment section. Auburn fans, what does success look like? Baylor fans, what does success look like? Let us know in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe so I can show my awesome boss, whomever that is, that I deserve to keep this job at Locked On Baylor. And I believe that goes the same for Zac Blackerby of Locked On Auburn. So get involved in that comment section, like, subscribe, and you got one more thing?
No.
Okay. And we will see you on the next one. This has been Locked On Auburn, Locked On Baylor crossover, baby.